Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe. Honest take now that Biden's term is complete. Where would you rank him in history of presidents? In my lifetime, I think he was an exceptional man. I think maybe we'll see. Maybe history will be a little bit different. But given the unbelievably divisive time that he walked into, and then his commitment to not play partisan politics and his commitment to try to turn down the temperature as much as he could, I like any other person in that position, it might have been a catastrophe. But I don't know. That's just my feeling on it.
Today, where the portrait hung of the 39th Army Chief of Staff, there is a blank wall. Where the portrait hung of the 20th Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, there is a blank wall. But now the Trump administration is doing more than painting over Mark Milley's legacy. It's threatening to punish him for comments like this.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant.
Ooh, I think Trump got hella mad when he heard this, right?
Or
Not as good as Obama. I don't know if Obama was an exceptional president. The more I revisit it and think, I feel like the foreign policy stuff was pretty bad. But also, it was a very difficult position to be in foreign policy wise, but I don't know.
For comments like this.
I mean, like the red line, there was no excuse for that. Like, I don't know. I don't think Obama had the best track record. The ACA was good for sure, but that was like the only thing. But it was a big thing, but I don't know.
But now the Trump administration is doing more than painting over Mark Milley's legacy. It's threatening to punish him for comments like this.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Today, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth directed the Defense Department's Inspector General to consider an investigation into Milley's, quote, conduct, despite a previous report that exonerated him.
If you actively undermined the change.
No shot Destiny hops on the Obama bad train like all of the leftists. I would never say Obama was bad. I just don't think he had the most effective presidency. Destiny DACA. I mean, DACA is nice, but DACA in my mind, a good leader does what he can in the role that he's given for the jobs that he has. So like things related to national security and defense and everything, and like foreign policy, these are things that are pretty squarely in the purview of the president, the State Department, how they manage things. So I'll give him a lot of agency over that. And then I think the president is also a form of, I don't want to say moral leader, but like party leader. So like what kind of legislation can you get your people together to pass, and can you bully other people to pass? And when I look at something like DACA in my mind is a failure of immigration policy. Like, it's cool that he did it to protect those children. Like, that was cool, but it would have been nice if that was a bill from Congress instead. Because remember, whatever can be passed via executive order can probably be rescinded via executive order. And now DACA, since it was done via EO, could face termination by Trump via EO if Trump turns his eyes to it, if he sets his sights on it, you know. Can you elaborate on your criticism of his foreign policy? The shift towards drones seems good to me, and he got UBL. Am I retarded? What does UBL mean? I think most people say that Libya could have been handled better. I don't know how much better the post-Libyan intervention could have been. Osama bin Laden. I don't give a f about assassinating people like that. The red line in Syria was unnecessary, and I think that was a little bit disastrous. We didn't really do anything in response to the invasion of Crimea, unfortunately. What else happened, man? That was many years. From 2008 to 2016, what else happened in the world? Was Georgia? Did that happen under Obama, or was that the end of Bush? Obama came into office in 2009, right? Early, it would have been January 6th or January 20th or whatever, 2009. Yeah, I don't know. But Obama was also having to try to rescue our economy and everything. So that was another thing we had to deal with too, you know? If Destiny admires Biden for how he acted, why does he act in the opposite way? I'm not the president of the United States of America. What do you mean? So I have a different role. I serve a different purpose, not the president. I wouldn't want like an Olympic coach to act the same way as a coach for a Little League team.
Consider an investigation into Milley's, quote, conduct, despite a previous report that exonerated him.
If you actively undermined the chain of command, as General Milley did under the previous Trump administration, we're going to review those actions administratively inside the Defense Department.
The Pentagon also stripped Milley of his security detail, even though the threat against him from Iran for his role in the death of Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani is still active. Senate Intelligence Chairman Tom Cotton confirmed this weekend.
I've reviewed the intelligence in the last few days. The threat to anyone involved in President Trump's strike on Qasem Soleimani is persistent. It's real.
President Trump chose Milley as his chairman, the senior-most military advisor, but the two eventually clashed, especially over Milley's initial presence with Trump in June 2020.
Is that your...
Obama deported 3.5 million people during his time in office. How are his deportations different than Trump's? One, Obama didn't feel hateful when he was doing it, which I think is a big driver of why I view Trump so negatively. And two, Obama was doing what he could to enforce border security, but I think he would have been open to some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. The Republicans are not open to any kind of real immigration reform.
Advisor, but the two eventually clashed, especially over Milley's initial presence with Trump in June 2020.
Is that your Bible?
When Trump appeared in Lafayette Square near the White House, after protesters demanding justice for George Floyd were cleared by police.
I should not have been there. My presence in that moment and in that environment
created a perception of the military involved in domestic politics.
After January 6th, Milley said he called his Chinese counterpart to avoid conflict. He called it approved communication, but Trump in 2023 called it an act so egregious that in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. President Biden pardoned Milley on his last day in office, so Milley cannot be court-martialed, but any decision against him could reduce his rank, even in retirement. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin.
And for perspective on this, we turn to Jim McPherson. He served as Undersecretary of the Army and as the Army's General Counsel during the first Trump administration. He also had a 25-year career in the Navy, serving as its top lawyer in uniform. Thanks for being with us. And I want to start with your reaction to the Trump White House.
I don't know how the eating cats and dogs didn't sink Trump's campaign, actually immune to career-ending gaffes. Well, you just have to remember, like, they don't care about it. I don't play any video games, so I can't even make a good video game analogy. It's like having a rock in Pokemon, where there's some creatures were immune completely, 100% to other things, right? Like ground attacks had zero impact on flying Pokemon, right? It's like having a rock Pokemon, Golem, and you use like Thundershock, and you're like, oh my God, that did nothing. And you're like, okay, well, what about Thunderbolt? And you're like, oh my God, how did you survive a Thunderbolt? And that did nothing. And okay, well, Thunder, that'll certainly do it. And then that did nothing. And it's like, yeah, they don't care. It doesn't impact these people. Like this, I don't know why you're so surprised. I mean, even I still get surprised, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's not, of course they don't give a none of the factual accuracy of any of these things doesn't matter. It's just the feelings you convey about the things. It's kind of funny in listening about Bismarck. People like to make fun of me for not knowing history, so I didn't even know Bismarck was a person, by the way. I thought it was like a ship in a place. Because fuck my general knowledge on history. But I guess I think this is probably just like part of the human condition, to where people will always rewrite history to suit their modern narratives. Like, and seeing, I guess, we're only 2 chapters in, but like the requirement of Germans in the late 19th century, early 20th century to rewrite Bismarck's leadership as a way to bolster like positions that historically aren't founded. It's the same thing that Israelis do. It's the same thing that Palestinians do. It's the same thing that you see Americans doing now, with Trump talking about how, what did Trump say? Like Carter lost the election because he didn't take over the Panama Canal, or misciting or misquoting, the founding fathers and shit like that. Like the need for somebody to own history and then to insert their own bullshit into history in order to justify whatever they're currently doing, I guess is probably like a pretty common thing in history.
Ending General Milley's security detail, revoking his security clearance, and the Defense Department now opening an investigation into his background for the apparent offense of his personal disloyalty to Donald Trump.
A lot of mixed emotions, dismay, surprise, sad.
Wait, I'm so sorry, real quick. Wait, so why is it that people like this, if you're bald and you're fully committed to the balding thing, why not just laser the hair off your head? Why not just say, f it?
To Donald Trump. Ending General Milley's security detail, revoking his security clearance, and the Defense Department now opening an investigation into his background for the apparent offense of his personal disloyalty to Donald Trump.
A lot of mixed emotions, dismay, surprise, sadness. I think many assumed that the rhetoric during the campaign was just that. It was rhetoric. That the president's promise to be there, our retribution, was rhetoric. And unfortunately, the recent spate of executive orders and this action today indicates that it wasn't rhetoric, that we should take him at his word, that what he says regarding getting even with others who he perceived slighted him or criticized him is very real. Removing General Milley's security detail not only causes threats to him, but to his family as well. Those threats are ongoing, as we heard. And those threats came because he performed his duties as an Army officer. And the country owes him that protection. To remove
Why don't you laser the hair on your balls away? Holy shit, great idea.
that protection now is just shameless.
The new Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, was on Fox earlier this evening, and he accused General Milley of breaking the chain of command while serving under President Trump in the first term. What impact might that assertion, that accusation, have on the Inspector General investigation? And how might that impact Hegseth's recommendation to Donald Trump once this investigation ends, whenever it ends?
You've asked the right questions. First of all, I don't exactly understand how it impacted the chain of command. General Milley, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was not in an operational chain of command. The chairman's duties by law are to advise the secretary and the president on military matters. He doesn't command any forces whatsoever.
Oh, good point. That would be a really retarded thing to say. Oh, that makes sense. That's absolutely true. The president of the United States is in the chain of command for the military. He's the top dog for all the military, right? The president of the United States is the chief of, not chief of staff, the commander in chief. But the joint chiefs of staff and then the secretaries of all your military bodies are civilians. Those are political jobs. Those are civilian positions. They're not part of the chain of command at all. So I don't know how those people could ever disrupt the chain of command unless they're giving orders, I guess. I don't know.
The chairman's duties by law are to advise the secretary and the president on military matters. He doesn't command any forces whatsoever. So I don't understand how that impacted the chain of command. Perhaps the secretary misspoke, or the secretary doesn't understand the chain of command. I think it sends a terrible message. Not only does it send a message that retribution towards General Milley for what he said or is perceived to have said, But I think the message there is to others who are currently serving on active duty in senior positions.
Keep in mind, too, remember how many people were saying things. The Republicans were like, guys, we can't prosecute Trump. Like, imagine the standards that you're going to set. Like, it's going to be a new norm that people will always be charging presidents with crimes, blah, blah, blah. But look at all the shit they're doing now. Honest to God, this is my biggest concern. I think that the highest chance of me dying, my guess is going to be is when I'm 40 years old, because then Hassan can actually say, you're 40 years old. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be 40 years old, and it's going to be debating with conservatives over the next election. I won't be able to handle the hypocrisy. I'll want to blow my brains out. Like, I don't know what possible positions conservatives could ever argue for after cheering on Donald Trump and everything that he's done in the first month. We're not even a month in yet. Like, how could you ever take a maggot seriously? How could you ever take them seriously on anything after this?
For what he said or is perceived to have said. But I think the message there is to others who are currently serving on active duty in senior positions. That if you don't toe the line, if you don't line up with what the president and this administration wants, you...
Did Destiny say whether or not he's going to review Asmongold's coverage of the Hassan nuke? Bro, the Hassan nuke was an hour and a half. You think I'm going to watch a 4-hour video of him covering it? That's like an 8-hour stream.
Run the risk of this same retribution that General Milley is now the subject of.
There should be like an AWK Twitter thread covering it now.
Not only does it send the message that retribution towards General Milley for what he said or is perceived to have said, but I think the message there is to others who are currently serving on active duty in senior positions. That if you don't toe the line, if you don't line up with what the president and this administration wants, you run the risk of this same retribution that General Milley is now the subject of. Any good leader wants to surround themselves and empower those who work for them to be in disagreement, to offer alternatives, to challenge assumptions. That's not what this administration seems to be signaling to its senior military. It seems to be signaling is, you better get in line, or we're going to come after you.
Hold on, wait. Jacob Hawkins in YouTube chat says, Destiny not quite. The secretaries are civilians and they are in the chain of command. The Joint Chiefs are not civilians or in the chain of command. Wait. Secretary of the Army. Secretary of the Army Wikipedia is a senior civilian official within the U.S. Department of Defense with statutory responsibility for all matters relating to the United States Army, manpower, personnel, reserve affairs, installations, environmental issues, weapons systems, blah, blah, blah. Okay, wait. So if you wanted to do something with the Army, do those orders flow through the Secretary of the Army? Or is he just an advisor to the president? There are two chains of command, operational and administrative. Oh, okay. I guess that's kind of fair. I guess I'm thinking chain of command here. I'm only thinking operationally. So administratively, these guys are basically at the top of your administrative chain of command. Operationally, they don't technically have any input in your chain of command, right? Two chains of command, the Joint Chief and the Service Chiefs, are in charge of training / equipping the forces. Polio vaccines were the cause of cancer and disease. It's easily looked up. Pretty sure none of the studies have linked them to that yet, but Destiny, you were talking about baldness, and I wanted to show you what 5 months of minoxidil and finasteride looks like. Wow, good job, Prism. Wait, are you Tim Pool? You're gonna make it, bro. I feel so bad, bro. Some of those people on the hair subreddit, their finasteride and minoxidil results are like, it's actually unreal. They'll like have total, they'll go from like a Norwood 5 million to a total regrowth of everything. And then other people will be like, I've been up for 3 years. And they're still balding a little bit. Rip. What's the downsides of that shit again? I think the oral minoxidil can cause heart stuff, maybe, but it's supposed to be low risk, but I'm not sure. During the next election cycle, are you going to challenge anyone who disavows MAGA and or Trump by pointing out whether they were vocally opposed to his election / actions publicly? I don't know. Everybody's going to disavow and say that they didn't support Trump. Like, that's just going to be the play. If a non-Trump candidate comes around in 2028 or in 2032, it's like a different set of candidates.
Well, if that's the message that this administration is sending, how do you think serving officers will view it? How might they receive it and respond?
I think they'll be as shocked as I am. First of all, that they're removing that protection. Second of all, that they took the photos down. I can't think of anything more petty than that. And finally, that they are threatening his retirement grade. There's a process for that, and the process involves the Secretary of Defense analyzing whatever report he receives and making a recommendation to the president. Well, it sounds like the secretary has already prejudged that, already has in mind what his recommendation is going to be before there's even been an investigation.
You said the whole 40-year-old thing, but don't you think the Republican Party will somewhat return back to normalcy after you get candidates like Ted Cruz and Nikki Haley? Maybe. The Republican Party either has to go back to normalcy or will it just have descended into full authoritarian dictatorship, because the current Republican Party is not effective at governance. So it can't continue on like this. Trump cannot govern. He doesn't know how to. The Republicans, as they stand right now, well, at least the leadership is not aware of how to govern effectively. The people that Trump has staffed his cabinet with, people like Hegseth, these people just have no experience in good governance and governance at all. Trump clearly doesn't know how to govern. That's why he just writes EOs and then tees up in golfs. Elon Musk has no respect. None of the crypto bros have any idea how the government even works. They're retarded. So either they manage to throw the system into some full authoritarian nightmare machine, or the 4 years passes and Republicans are finally tired of it and they're like, okay, well, this is clearly not working. We're not getting anything done, so time to do the next thing or whatever. But who knows? I feel like maybe a good, I don't know, bro, because every time I peg something, it ends up becoming irrelevant. Like, find like 2 or 3 things that Trump promised and then see why those things don't come true by 2026 and then by 2028. Like, the deficit is not going away, and they should be forced to answer for that. I already know what the answers are going to be, though. It's either going to be, well, the economy's doing good, so it doesn't matter, or the deep state was still destroying us, even though Elon Musk is literally the deep state, or, well, you know, like Trump's saying now, like bringing down the cost of groceries is hard. Maybe getting rid of deficits is hard.